What's up, everybody? My name is Ray Taylor. This is the early retirement vlog where I talk about whatever I want to talk about. And in this episode, I want to discuss a show that if I had told myself that I'd be into a hunting show, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years, well, probably 10 years ago, I'd probably say it. I'd probably get into something like that. I'm not into hunting. The closest thing I ever got to hunting growing up was fishing. I did some lake fishing, so probably the least active version of hunting. But that's my background. I grew up in Southern California, so it's not a big hunting culture there. I want to say that I had friends. I had been, I guess, exposed to some hunting. I remember going on vacation when I was young, and we didn't go hunting, but the people that we live with did. I don't know. I got exposed to like cattle farming. I remember seeing cattle being castrated and branded and all that kind of stuff, which is quite a bit different than hunting. But anyway, I'm talking about hunting. I'm talking about a specific hunting show called Meat Eater, hosted by Steve Rinella. I first heard about this show and about him. He was a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, which is a podcast that one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And he was a guest on there probably, oh man, probably back in like 2013, maybe 2014. And it was a show that Rogan had seen. He had started playing around with the idea of hunting, and the show Meat Eater, hosted by Steve Rinella, was a show that he got into. One, because it's the production value is really good, and I would imagine it's different than a lot of hunting shows. I haven't gotten into a lot of hunting shows, but for me, what I feel the show reminds me of is more like an Anthony Bourdain show, where it goes a little bit deeper than just what they're doing. Rinella will go into like stories, either personal stories or historical stories about where the location that they're hunting, or it'll go into more of the philosophy of the animal they're hunting. But it goes a lot deeper, and there's cooking segments actually on Meat Eater, or cooking episodes, where he'll show you ways that he prepares certain food that he eats. So I first got into the show listening to him on Rogan's podcast. He's probably on there a few times. And then eventually, the fifth season and half of the sixth season were added to Netflix probably about a year ago. And before that, I had seen maybe one episode on their website or outtakes from an episode, because eventually Rogan and another stand-up comic, Brian Callen, went with Steve Rinella on some of these hunts. And in the fifth and possibly sixth, there's an episode with both of them. So they're both reoccurring guests on the show, which is always interesting because it's definitely goes from more of a hardcore hunting show to like clearly two people that are amateurs. Brian Callen more so than Rogan, going on the show, and you can tell the dynamics of the show and just discussions and things like that, and how they change with the different guests. But I enjoy the show a lot, just like Anthony Bourdain shows. I'm not a chef. I enjoy eating. I do enjoy cooking, but I'm not. It's not even like every once in a while I'll get the itch to like prepare a meal or do something in the crock pot. But I make basic food, nothing that involves multiple steps or anything like that. So the Bourdain shows are neat because you get to see different types of food. You get to kind of experience the different cultures from around the world, and it's done in a really polished way with Bourdain's narration and him as the host, and just the people that he has working with. It's a high quality. Like the cinematography is really good, sound quality is really good, everything's really good. They make it a joy to watch. So even if you're not into hunting, it's still an enjoyable show to watch. And I don't know, I enjoy. Steve Rinella has a way of speaking similar to Bourdain, where you get sucked into whatever they're doing, even though you're not particularly into whatever they happen to be doing. Um, so yeah, Meat Eater. Uh, it's is weird because they only added half of the season 6. So I've watched all of season 5. I watched all of season 6 by now. It just got released the second half of season 6, and I think it's because he touches on a few things that I could see. Like there's one episode where he goes with these guys that shoot squirrels and are kind of more of the hillbilly hunter, even though it's more of an old timey hunting thing, culturally for the United States, hunting smaller mammals, or trapping smaller mammals. Um, and then there was one where they go, I believe it's in Texas. There's a huge problem with wild pigs in Texas, to where they're an invasive species. They're not native to that area, so they're kind of destroying wildlife habitats, as well as farmland and grassland, and they're just kind of wreaking havoc. So it's taking those wild pigs out, is kind of, and they try and do them in mass numbers. So I could see, I could see that second half of the 6th season being more difficult for someone to watch that's already against hunting. But by the time you get to that part, like if you watch season 5, season 6, even those episodes, it's very. He's very honest about it. You see the entire preparation, from the difficulty in harvesting these animals, to cleaning them, and breaking them down into the pieces that you see at a grocery store. Which is, it's an interesting, like, we're so removed from the idea of the food that we get, whether it's through fast food or through the grocery store. We're so cut off and so separated from the idea of where that food comes from, especially if you're going to fast food. Like, you're not even seeing like actual meat. You're barely eating actual meat, but you're not seeing patties of meat where it's like, okay, it's dead flesh, but you're still not seeing how that dead flesh got chopped up into that small little chunk that you happen to be seeing. So seeing the process of the food getting broken down, just all the different ways of hunting. There's an episode where he gets into beavers, and just how smart beavers are, and how hunting beavers was a huge part of the beginning of this country's history. This is a really interesting show. Pretty basic. This episode of Early Retirement. It's a small recommendation for you. If you have Netflix, even if you're not into hunting shows, I would definitely if you're just into, like, if you watch those travel shows like Anthony Bourdain and stuff like that, it's almost as much as a traveling show as it is a cooking show, as it is a hunting show, as it is just kind of seeing the deeper part, like the philosophies of hunting, and the actual behind the scenes and ethics that go into hunting, and how much these people respect what they do and appreciate what they do, especially the wildlife, more than people that just buy their shit at the grocery store. Because hunting directly, like the tags that they buy and the hunting fees that they have, because our government has these regulations in place to protect the wildlife, at least for now, those fees that they get from the hunters go to help maintain these wildlife. So their hunters are the reasons why we have so much great wildlife in this country, and great use of public lands. If you get rid of public lands, then you get rid of all the things that we can do, because that's part of our land. It's our land. We pay for it. Our taxes pay for it. But anyway, it's a great show. I highly recommend it. Even if you're not into hunting, if you watch those travel shows, if you watch those cooking shows, give it a shot. You may enjoy it. You may appreciate hunting more. You may appreciate the the meat you're eating. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you may not like it, but I'd still give it a shot. I'd still give it a shot. You know, go like watch some of them. Like sometimes he doesn't even get anything, but it's not. It's so much more of a process than any even vegans do to get their food. Like the amount of work that goes into getting this food, which they all eat and they share and they have big coolers. So it's like they don't go to the grocery store to buy their fucking dinner. They're eating the meals that they from the animals that they harvested from nature, you know, at the beginning of the year, and it lasts them the whole year. So it's interesting. I'm not necessarily doesn't necessarily inspire me to go hunting, uh, but at some point in my future, I would not mind. I wish I could have access. I wish it was legal for hunters to sell their game, or if there's some workaround. Um, but I enjoy it. Meat Eater, go check it out. Steve Rinella, he has a podcast, the Rinella podcast. He has a book, or it's a Meat Eater podcast. He has a book. It's probably Steven Rinella on Twitter. But check out Meat Eater on Netflix. And if you want to check out any of my stuff, inspireddisorder.com, newly redesigned website, at Ray Taylor on Twitter and Instagram. I have an art series, ink drawing series ongoing, The Many Faces, and 12 by 12 Photoshop prints, all available at my website, inspireddisorder.com. So go there for everything. And thank you for listening and watching. Have a great week. Till next time. Peace.